Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2 of Walkthrough Wednesdays. This is a series where we take you through past deals that we either did or did not do, and we break them down as much as we can to help you guys understand and get a better feel for how wholesale transactions work. There are 5 questions that we go over. The first one is, where's the property located and what kind of property is it? The second question is, how did we find it, or what marketing channel did we utilize to get the lead, and then how did we take it from there? The third question is the backstory. What was going on in the homeowner's life for them to need to sell? And we will also go over the general condition of the home. Number 4 is underwriting or analyzing the deal. So we'll kind of show you how we take it through from our initial contact to talking numbers to know if you actually have a deal or not, and kind of what can make or break a deal as well. And number 5 is what happened. Were we able to close on it? Did we assign it to another investor? Was it successful, or did the deal just not work? We'll go over all of these in depth, so let's dive in. So let's start with the first question. Where was this property located, and what kind of property was it? So this property was located in Roy, Utah, and it was a single family home. It was just a cute little house, and it had a little carport off to the side. Great home. Now, question number 2, how did we find this deal? Well, we found this through a unique marketing strategy called Driving for Dollars. Now, Driving for Dollars is where you quite literally drive around your neighborhood and drop pins on houses that look really run down. A lot of times they have broken windows, the grass is overgrown. Overall, you get a sense that this house just needs some work done. So we had dropped a pin on this home, and I had called the homeowner, and that's how we were able to get in contact with him. Question number 3, backstory and the property condition. So to get into more backstory with this property, I had called the homeowner, and he was interested in selling. He seemed to be in general financial hardship. He had indicated that he had just had knee surgery, and so because of that, he just wasn't able to work. Seemed to be in a pretty tough spot. Stated that the property needed some work and overall wasn't in the best condition. Partway through the conversation, he had mentioned that he had actually only lived in the home for about 2 years, which in some cases is really not long enough to do a traditional wholesale with just a cash transaction. We were kind of worried that we weren't going to be able to make this work for him. He really needed to sell, but he kind of had a price point that he obviously couldn't go below because he had a mortgage on the property. So the owner had indicated he still wanted us to come and take a look at it. Again, we weren't sure if we could make it work or not, but we felt that we could get a better understanding for the property and for the deal in general if we could go look at it ourselves. So we agreed to go meet with him. We went out to go look at the property. So let's dive into some of the photos so you can get a better understanding for what it looked like.
So here we are on the inside of the house. One thing we always do when we first walk in, or just when you go look at any house in general, try and pay attention to as many details as you can. Think like a flipper. Think of all the things you would do if you were renovating, and what areas you might be able to save some money on. So here's the end, and then in through here, we are just looking at a hallway. Probably want to replace some carpet, trim, nothing too complicated. Back over. Looking down the other side here. So over into the kitchen's good area to pay a lot of attention to. You can see it kind of has the laundry room over there on the back side. From a flipper's perspective, this is probably a full redo of a kitchen here if you're looking to save money. Again, since this is a tighter deal, they may just try and replace the hinges on the cabinets, all the hardware, replace the sink, replace the countertops, and paint them, and it might be good enough. Like that definitely could be an option, and that could be something you could always help pitch to your end buyers as well. You see some fun things like this pebble countertop here, pretty pretty unique. um, Swinging over here into the dining, back over to the kitchen, and for example, like this room here really doesn't need a ton of work. You probably just want to replace the trim, the carpet, fresh coat of paint. You're going to do that everywhere, and then put in some can lights. That could be it. You might want to paint that fireplace. That's kind of just up to the flipper, what they would want to do. But the point being, there's definitely some things in here that you could do to help save some money. You could even just plop a single light or a fan combo right in the middle, and have enough and be good and save some money there. Obviously from a flipper's perspective, but these are good things to be thinking about as you're going through. Of course, it's always good to try and get pictures of the furnace, the water heater, anything like that. You can see this one's generally fine. Probably don't need to do anything to it or replace it. Just gonna swing through some bedrooms here. Bathroom. Bathrooms are always, that's really great value add opportunity. So if you are a flipper or you're talking to a flipper, um, I wouldn't be surprised if some maybe left this and repainted and just put in a new toilet, maybe put in a new surround or something like that, put in some new hardware for the shower faucet and things like that. That might be a good opportunity. But other than that, it's really not that bad. Definitely want to come in here and do all, replace the carpet. This definitely needs some work in here. But as you keep scrolling through, you can see and just get a good general understanding for what properties that we wholesale typically look like. Not bad by any means, but certainly not updated. So definitely could use some updating across the board on the inside and could use some updating across the board on the outside as well, as you can see. So there's always a shed that needs a lot of work. Flipper will obviously put his money where he best sees. So even some little details like up here is just things that you kind of want to look at and make sure you get good pictures of, so you can document it when you typically are sending out your deals via email, including some photos. So here it is, just a nice little house and good carport on the front, but this is typically what we work with when we are wholesaling, and this is a good opportunity for you guys to just get a better understanding of this property in particular. So let's jump back over to the video.
So after we had seen it, we were talking rough numbers with the owner, and he wasn't interested. He didn't want to press forward. It didn't seem like we could come to an agreement on price, and so he said he would just let us know, which that typically always means they're not interested. And so unfortunately, we just went our separate ways. And I want to say it was just a couple weeks later, I got a call from him saying, "Hey, let's talk again. Let's go over these numbers and see if we can make something work." So now let's jump into question 4, which is underwriting the deal. There's a lot of different aspects you take into consideration when you're analyzing a deal. One of those is the property's condition, how much work it needs. We definitely had to take into consideration the fact that he had only owned this for roughly 2 years, meaning he would have very, very little equity to work with. Other common factors you take into account when you're analyzing real estate is the property square footage, the lot size, location is a really big one, and everything else along those lines. The last thing you want to determine when you're analyzing a deal or trying to get a property under contract is the ARV. Now, the ARV stands for after repair value. It's what you think the property will sell for on the back end once it's totally remodeled, it's brought up to modern standards and right where you need it, beautifully done, and where you think that price point is. Now, we thought that this property could sell for about $225,000, decked out to the nines, just beautifully redone. We'd offered a pretty low price. I think initially we were in the 130s, and immediately he just lots of pushback, and he couldn't make it work. He then countered us at about 160, and even then, thinking that this property needing tens of thousands of dollars in repairs and maybe only being worth $225,000, that just wasn't enough margin, wasn't going to work. After looking into things further and kind of just really trying to push him for his bottom line, we came down $5,000 to 155. We said, "Hey, this is the max that we can do." And he said it was too low for him. He was really going to have to think about it. And he took a couple days to do so. And he eventually called back and just said, "Hey, I've got to do this. Let's go. I've got to move on. I got to get some money in my pocket. I can't work. I have this knee surgery. I've got some other things I need to figure out. So let's press forward at 155. So we sent over a contract for $155,000 and we got the property under contract. Now, when we put this property under contract, we were obviously hoping to make as much as we could, but we were thinking that was going to range somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, meaning that we would assign the contract for $160,000 to $165,000. So we started searching for a buyer. Now let's dive into question 5 and figure out exactly what happened. So question 5, what happened? So we sent this deal out via email as we typically do to all of our buyers, and we had a handful of people interested. Again, it's a really small deal, so someone's going to have to be really good at what they do to make this work and be confident in their numbers. And there was one individual in particular who essentially he wanted to press forward. He wanted to buy it. He came and looked at it, and he loved it, and it fit his buy box, and he was ready to go. And so we got our assignment agreement in place with him, and we assigned the contract. And we assigned it to him for $165,000. And in this case, our assignment fee was going to be $10,000. So we sent over all the appropriate documents to our title company, and they structured closing, and we had everything ready to go. Or so we thought. What happened was we were a couple weeks into this, and we get a call from the title company, and they mentioned that this homeowner was in foreclosure. How we didn't figure this out throughout this entire process and weeks of working with this guy, I have no idea. It was one of the first deals that we did, and typically when you're talking to someone, that comes up in conversation. That's something that would generally happen. He's talking about his knee surgery. He's talking about everything else. So you'd think that, hey, I'm going through foreclosure. I'm going to lose my home. You think that would be something that would come up. So unfortunately, we were not able to budge on our price, and there was about $3,000 in attorney fees that had to be accounted for and had to be paid for, and so they came out of the homeowner's proceeds in this case. So that was kind of a random surprise right at closing that we had no idea. So now we know to ask and make sure that the property is going to foreclosure or not. It's a pretty easy thing to find out now. So on closing day, we got our assignment check for $10,000, and that was that. It was a very good deal, and since this was a few years ago, we actually know what the property sold for. So the investor that we sold the property to, we were anticipating again that it would only sell for about $225,000, but he ended up selling it for $239,000. So he's able to make a little bit more money on top of that, which is great for him. All in all, we're so grateful we were able to help this gentleman out. He was able to get into a new apartment. He was able to figure out his job situation. And most importantly, he was just able to move on to a new chapter of his life. And that's really what wholesaling is and what we're able to do. We're able to help people move on from a huge financial burden, or what could be a financial burden, and to enter into a new chapter of their life. They're able to wipe their hands free of this thing that they felt was holding them back, and they get to start over. So this is another reason why we absolutely love what we do and are grateful to do it every day. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Walkthrough Wednesday. We have some fantastic episodes coming in the future. This one turned out really positive. Again, super grateful we were able to make it work, able to make $10,000 doing it, and our investor was able to make a lot of money as well. We'll see you guys next week.